Hey there, friends, and welcome to Crazy for Crafting. So today we are going to be working on a Mele Kalikimaka Snowflake spinner card. I had posted this one on Facebook and had so many requests for a tutorial that I thought I would break it down for you. And the beautiful thing about this is that it looks complicated, but I promise you that it isn't. My favorite thing about the spinner card is that before you put it in the envelope, you wind it up so that when your recipient opens it, they're going to get it, it will be flat, but when they open it and pull it out of the envelope, it's going to spin and they're going to be crazy impressed and wonder how you did this magical thing. So let's take a look at the pieces. I will link the design below. I have it shared in Cricut Design Space, but let's look at what you're going to have. When you cut this out, you will have, first of all, 2 front panels. And this paper, in case you're wondering where I got it, came from a Christmas, like a Christmas pad of paper called Peace on Earth by Recollections. I bought it last year in 2021, and so I did Google it today to see if it was still available. And what I'm finding is you can only get it in places like Poshmark or Mercari, resale kind of websites. So you can easily use any other patterned paper that you happen to like. And you'll notice I already put part of the caption on it. I did that just because it's a lot of small letters and I really didn't think you would want to watch me gluing all of those on. So that's partially done. You've got your 2 front pieces. You are also going to have then the remainder of your caption, just the Mele part, because I did the Kalikimaka already. You will have the debossed inside panel. I did this with just kind of a very simple trees and snow kind of a background. If you don't have a Cricut that does debossing with the debossing tip, you can do this with a scoring stylus. It will be less pronounced and less crisp, but it will still put it there. Another option is if you don't deboss, you may have like a Cricut Cuttlebug or a Sizzix embossing machine where you can use an embossing folder to put a design on it, or you could leave it plain or use a different kind of patterned paper. So you have some options there. I like the debossing, and I recently upgraded to the Cricut Maker 3, so I've been playing with all of the different features it can do. You will have 2 identical glitter snowflakes. I did these just as a side note. I cut them out on the glitter cardstock setting and they came out pretty well. I would have liked to have set it to intricate cardstock, but because it was glitter, I wanted to make sure it realized I was using thick paper. You will have the envelope, and I could not resist playing with my new opaque pens just to see how that would work on a darker shade of paper. Full disclosure, I did end up having to go in with the pen and kind of touch up bits of the snowflake, but overall I'm pretty happy with how that came out. And finally, you're going to have your card base, which is just a big rectangle with a hole in the center and then 2 sets of score lines so that we can get that Z fold. So let me push a few of these just out of the way so we have some space to work. And we're actually going to start by doing the front panels on this piece. I am using Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. I also like the Art Glitter Glue. This is my new favorite kind of glue just because it comes with these, it comes with a couple of different tip options. This is the most precision tip you can get, and it's the one I just tend to leave on. So we're going to start by attaching the 2 front panels. They will only fit one way, so there's no mixing up which one's which. And we're just gonna start by, now I've seen people do this with, oh, my glue doesn't wanna come out, using double-sided tape, which you are certainly welcome to do. I'm more of a gluer than a taper. So we're just gonna apply some glue to the edges. And I have the precision tip on, but with this piece, it's really not so crucial for it to be super exact, right? We just want to make sure it's covered. And then you want to kind of see where that line is so you know where your edges are on the front panel. Just kind of center it as best you can. And then press it down. If you are using metallic paper like I did for the sentiment, you will want to be a little bit careful about touching it too much, because I have found if you get glue or fingerprints or anything, that paper's pretty sensitive to that, and it's not easy to clean it off. In fact, you can sometimes make it worse. I did that just the other day with a card I was making. So we'll attach both of these front panels. If you hear, I try to have a quiet space when I'm making videos, but I have 4 dogs. And so my pug, Max, is in the next room and he snores. It's just what pugs do. So if you hear snoring, it is just my little pug bug taking a nap out there. We'll do the same thing on this side. We want to kind of try to eyeball it so they're lined up straight across from one another. And while we have this guy open here, let's go ahead and add the remainder of the caption. Now, you don't have to use Mele Kalikimaka, that's a mouthful, as your caption. I am going to Hawaii with a friend after Christmas, and so I wanted to send her a Christmas card that sort of reflected that. But it's a super cute card to make, and you can change it to, you know, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I am just lining this up sort of directly above the bottom word. They will turn out to be roughly the same width once you have them both glued on. And again, I'm being pretty careful with this shiny cardstock. I sometimes will even just use like my sleeve to press it down so that I'm not putting the, you know, the oils from my fingers onto it. I like that this glue gives you just a second of leeway. You know, if you put something down and you're not exactly thrilled with the placement, it will allow you to move it for half a second, which is great. I thought it was cute the way this word was. Now this was a sentiment that I got from Design Space, but I liked the way they made the last E smaller so that it fit inside of the L. I thought that was kind of cute. So we're gonna go ahead and get our sentiment in place. That looks pretty good, pretty well aligned. Oop, there we go. Okay. And then while we have this card open, let's go ahead and attach the inside panel. Now you may have noticed this is a bit wavy and curly. If you've ever used the Cricut Maker 3 with the debossing tip, you'll know that it makes your paper really stick very, very much onto the mat. And so even if you flip the mat over and you carefully remove the paper, you're still gonna end up with a bit of waviness. For me, I found that if I use just a little bit more glue and kind of give it a really good press, it can kind of counteract that warping. I also did take it, I had cut this out yesterday, and overnight I put it underneath something, not something very heavy. I think if I had used a heavy book, I might have had better luck. But just putting it underneath something to sort of help with that warping. And again, you're gonna find the score line, which is your center, and then just kind of center this guy. You know, you can line it up with the front panels a bit and really press it down. I actually like, because it is sort of warped, I like to flip it over and just give it a really good. Now, if I had my brayer handy, I don't have it out, but you could definitely use the brayer to sort of roll over it and evenly distribute that glue. So here's where we are so far. Now we're gonna go ahead and give the card a fold. This card is called a Z fold. Actually, when you fold it and you look at it from the top down, it's sort of an upside down Z. I guess if we looked at the bottom of it, you would see that actual letter Z. But a Z fold, just in that it's kind of going to be like a zigzag. So I like to fold it down the center first. And I will often, just to get a nice crisp fold, I like to use my bone folder. Sometimes I've even used my little Cricut scraping tool. And then this one is going to get folded back on the score line. It looked like my one panel wanted to come a bit loose there. So we're gonna see and make sure he's really, really good and stuck. Yep. So there you've got your Z fold. We're gonna set that aside for a minute and work on our snowflakes. So you're going to want both of your snowflake pieces. Now the first thing you'll do is cut yourself a piece of thread. I'm using white because I did a glitter snowflake. I really like the glitter for the spinner card just because I feel like when it spins, it really catches the light. You're gonna wanna make this a couple inches longer than your card. I like to err on the side of a little too much thread. You definitely don't wanna err on the side of too little. And then just choose one of your snowflakes. Notice I have these flipped over onto the wrong side. So I'm gonna use this one. And do you see how the snowflake sort of has spokes like a wheel? We are going to try to glue the thread right down the center line of one of those, what I kind of call spokes. So I'm just gonna glue it right down the middle. And then, whoops, I'm gonna kind of aim for the center of my thread. It does not have to be exact. We cut it long, so we have a bit of wiggle room, right? But you're just gonna press that thread down so that it's right down that, do you see how it's sort of right down that straight line on the snowflake? We want it down the middle, so when it spins, it will spin evenly. Oops. I'm on a silicone mat. It's a new one, and it's really gripping everything that I'm putting on it, which is good and bad, I think. Once in a while, like I just noticed when you cut glitter, sometimes you have like a little tiny piece. I just saw a little piece that didn't pop out. So I'm just gonna use the needle from my glue and fix that. So the next thing we're going to do is basically make a sandwich of thread between the two snowflakes so that when it spins, you'll see glitter on both sides. Now this is one of those deals where you have a lot of intricate little pieces. So I'm using just kind of sparingly trying to get some glue everywhere. You might notice I'm doing some kind of little dots. It doesn't need to be, you definitely don't want your glue oozing out and making a mess. So I'm just kind of dotting, but I do want to make sure that it's firmly attached everywhere so that when it spins, you aren't seeing, space between the front and back snowflake. And I'm working rather quickly because this glue, one of the things I really like about it is that it dries pretty quickly. But when you are trying to glue something that has a lot of little intricate parts, that can work against you. I was watching a crafting video by someone who I think was British, and they were calling the tough parts the fiddly bits. And so when I'm crafting now, whenever I get to a part that has, it's a little high maintenance or it has lots of intricacies, in my mind, I think of those as the fiddly bits. So once you get it together, I kind of pick mine up and just like to look and make sure that everything is really well aligned, that I don't have anything sort of staggered or off center. And then I'm just going around and pinching all of these parts of my snowflake. And you'll see it's pretty well attached. When you flip it over, check the other side, everything looks pretty good. So we're gonna now kind of embark on the attaching the snowflake to the card. So we're gonna take the card and actually flip it over. I'm gonna bend him back a little bit so he'll stay flat. Okay, so this crease here on either side of the hole is where we're going to be attaching the spinner. The first thing you'll wanna do is lay your snowflake so that it's really well centered in that circle. Right? You wanna keep it really well centered. And then just kind of align the string. It may not lay perfectly, and that's okay. We're gonna help it. This is the, I guess, the fiddly bit of making this card. I like to use a little piece of washi tape to help me to get a nice tight pull on the string so that the snowflake stays right in the center. You could use painter's tape, you could use probably masking tape, but if you're going to use masking tape, I would use a thin piece and I would maybe stick it on my shirt a little bit first to kind of take some of the tackiness away. So when you pull it up, it doesn't tear your card. So I'm gonna pull this fairly taut and really line it up with that crease. I'm just gonna put this piece of washi tape there for now to hold it in place. I'm gonna get myself one more little piece of washi tape. I had gotten on Amazon once, I just bought like a variety pack of washi tape and it came with, can't find the end, it came with all of these rolls of different widths. Some of them were designs that I would probably not use in my crafting, and so I find that they're really useful for this kind of thing, like little, you know, utility pieces, we'll call them. And so you're gonna take this piece and again, kind of pull it taut because we want that centered, and then tape it down. Really push it so that that thread doesn't have any way of wiggling. And then you're gonna take your glue and just glue the parts that are exposed. Don't glue over your washi tape, but glue right there. Now, I don't mind getting my fingers dirty, and on this one I usually do. I just like to kind of work that glue in a bit to make sure that that is going to stay. The trick is to stay aligned with the crease. So we're gonna just glue this guy, and then what I didn't bring over was a paper towel. That's okay. This is a kind of glue that when you rub your fingers together, it kind of balls up and falls off. I'm not so sure I like how much I use there. I want to give it a little bit more. On this section of the card, I tend to err on the side of more glue, not less. And then we'll do the same thing here up top, just with the parts that are exposed. We're going to go ahead and glue those down. And then this guy's gonna need a couple of minutes to just set. And so I don't really wanna move him. I wonder if I can just slide him over a tiny bit. We're just gonna put him over there for a minute. This is a good time to assemble your envelope while you have a few minutes and you're waiting for the glue to sort of dry. Now, if you have a square envelope that you like better, that's fine. I designed this one. What I don't love about the envelope, if I'm being honest, is that it's long. And so you have to cut it on the 12 by 24 mat, if you're using a mat. And you have to use longer than 12-inch paper. So I happened to have a big pack of 12 by 24 paper from Michael's that I used for this. But I know that's not something everybody keeps in their stash. So if you have a better square envelope, you know, you'll just want to make sure that you size it to fit this card. But, oops, missed one. And again, this is totally optional. You don't have to do the snowflake if you're using dark paper like I did. The opaque pens are fun, but if you don't have those, you could try metallic. You could deboss it, or you could leave the snowflake out altogether. Something I like to do with envelopes sometimes is use patterned paper, but fold it so that the pattern is on the inside. So the outside is really the back of the paper and the white is showing. And then when your recipient opens it up, they get to see the pretty pattern on the inside. I did that with most of my Christmas cards this year. I have maybe you do too. I have a stash of probably more paper than anybody really needs. I don't know. I have a crafting addiction. I'm afraid when I go shopping and I see pretty paper, I can't help myself. So we're gonna go ahead and just smooth these edges down. And then of course, when you're finished, however you would typically, you know, seal. Now, I think, I could be wrong about this. I think that square envelopes cost more to mail through the US Postal Service. So this might be one you'd want to take to the post office and make sure that you have the correct postage on it. And I will sometimes, if I've done something intricate with a card, I will ask them for the non-machinable stamp. That way they're not putting your card through through the machines that might smush any of your embellishments. All right, we're back on the sticky silicone mat. So we're gonna really carefully, hopefully this guy's dry enough. We're gonna really carefully peel up the washi tape. Now it's sticking to me. Oh my goodness, there we go. And get the other one. I just like to kind of hang on to the edge of the thread, make sure that it stays nice and taut because I don't want to pull it up, especially on this short bit up top. Okay, so then you're just gonna take your glue and catch those areas that had been covered with tape before. And again, you're going to want to give it probably 2 to 3 minutes for the glue to really set. I'm gonna cheat here and hopefully not ruin my card in the process. Once you've got your glue set, you're gonna wanna go along the edges of the card and just snip off the excess thread. There we go. Now, I don't trust that he's really set as much as he should be, but in the interest of saving time, so you've got your card. Once it's dry, you can flip it over and go back to that Z fold and then give it a test drive. You're gonna take your snowflake and just wind it up. You know, as many times, you'll start to feel the tension once it starts to get really wound up. And then you can practice, you know, pretend you're the recipient, open it up and watch it spin, and then make sure before you mail it to your recipient that you spin, you know, wind it up and slide it into the envelope. Now I did find that because of how this card exposes so much of the inside, when I signed it to the friend that I made it for, I tried to keep my signature sort of in this area so that when it was closed, you wouldn't see a bunch of writing. Maybe that doesn't bother you, but for me, I just wanted it to look very clean for her when she opened it. So I put a little message to her in here. So that is how you do a spinner card. And you could get very creative with this, right? I've already been thinking about different holidays. I guess you could put like a shamrock or a pumpkin. Even for Christmas, this could be a tree or maybe a stocking. I sort of feel like something symmetrical might work best for a spinner. An ornament could be a good one. So I am very curious to see what you come up with, and I hope that you found this helpful. Keep on crafting.